Hello YouTube and fellow preppers, I'm Geordie Prepper. Something a little different today guys, but it's extremely important that people understand what's happening with this false EU referendum vote on the 23rd of June. I was out today and I came back and this piece of propaganda, fear-mongering leaflet was pushed through the door, the letterbox. So basically what I thought I would do is I would just explain in common sense, basic terms, so that everyone understands the scam, the fraud, the fear-mongering behind this leaflet and the reason why they're keeping the British public's attention diverted with it. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use their words in the leaflet and then I'm just going to explain briefly the scam behind it and why you as the public have absolutely no choice in this referendum. This is all historical and information that's freely available, and some of the things I'll be talking about are established in English law for hundreds of years. So let's just go through the leaflet now and I'll just show you what's going on with it. So on Thursday the 23rd of June there will be a referendum. Well, that's what they're saying to the public, but there is no referendum that the public can take part of that is lawful, is accountable, is that can be audited and could be found to be a true and lawful referendum. What the referendum is happening on the 23rd of June is fraud. It's your opportunity to decide if the UK remains in the European Union. First of all, it's not your opportunity because you don't have a choice in the matter. The UK is a private corporation and only exists in fictional legality. It is not a lawful country, basically. And personally, with looking into history and the facts of the matter, I don't recognise the UK. So on my videos, whenever you hear me talk about the country I live in, I will always refer to it as England because it is the country commonly known as England. If I was talking to you from Scotland, I would talk to you from Scotland and I would say that I'm in Scotland. Same goes with all the other countries on the British Isles. It's a big decision, one that will affect you, your family and your children for decades to come. The decisions which affect your daily life are already out of your hands, and as a prepper myself personally, I'm taking those decisions back. I don't conduct in anything, and I don't allow anyone to conduct my state of affairs against my wishes. I peacefully non-comply with this corrupt system. The UK has secured a special status in a reformed EU. No, well, it hasn't, basically. A group of men, and they are predominantly men, because in their religion they absolutely despise women, sat around and they decide what happens with England and the EU, and it's nothing that anybody in Europe or England has a say in yet. Something needs to happen soon to change that, and unfortunately it may come down to physical force and we may have to physically eject the people who are corrupt. However, and the preferred way that I would stress and promote to do it is with peaceful non-compliance. If you do not give them your energy, then they have no energy of ours to spend and their entire system collapses, and everything that you see, fictional legalities, fictional acts, statutes, everything that is meant to weight you down and keep you subjugated will one day be removed, because the future for our children, our children's children, depends on it. And I would rather fight now to secure their freedom than to have them further in chains and just utterly beaten into submission. The government believes the UK should remain in the EU. Well, the government doesn't have an opinion on it, is what should be the case. The government's opinion is what the public tells them, or that's how it should be. This statement right here is basically just telling you that you have absolutely no choice in the matter, that you do not own the government, that the government does not work for you. This leaflet sets out the facts and explains why the government believes a vote to remain in the EU is in the best interest of the people of the UK. It shows some of the choices the UK will face if there were a vote to leave. If you would like further information, blah blah blah. No, basically what it's going to do is it's going to scare you into voting yes. We'll cover why you do not have a vote later on in the leaflet. This is your chance to decide your own future and the future of the United Kingdom. It is important that you vote. Well, it's not your chance. You do not have a vote. You do not currently decide your own future and the future of the for-profit company United Kingdom. The only reason why it's important that you vote is because you register your vote, and if you register your vote, then it's not yours, and they can use it however they want. And believe you me, when this referendum happens on the 23rd, they are going to vote to remain in the EU, whether you wish it or not. So now we get into the fear mongering, and basically what they'll do is they'll state a lot of facts and figures which they give absolutely nothing to back it up. There should be sources listed at the end of the leaflet. Let's see if there is or not. The EU is by far the UK's biggest trading partner. EU countries buy 44% of everything we sell abroad. Well, they could buy 44% of everything that we produce, whether we're in the EU or not. We're an island. We've been trading for hundreds and hundreds of years with not one single problem. What makes them suddenly think that it's all just going to collapse? It's just fear-mongering. From cars to insurance, remaining inside the EU guarantees our full access to its single market. Well, it's not a single market, it's not a free market. By contrast, leaving creates uncertainty and risk. No, what creates uncertainty and risk is a fiat currency monetary system which we do not own. The EU's single market has over 500 million customers and an economy over 5 times bigger than the UK's. The single market makes it easier and cheaper for UK companies to sell the products outside the UK. Well, we could negotiate that whether we're in the EU or not. It's just trade. If they don't understand the basics of trade and barter, then these people, these puppets, should not be in a position to decide what and how for how much our goods are sold for. And plus, we don't make very many goods, not as much goods as what we used to. We do not export as much raw material as what we used to. That industry has been completely killed. We are just a service country. We service the needs of others with call centres and other such low wage, jobs that don't, develop people physically, mentally. They don't challenge us. Being inside the EU also makes it more attractive for companies to invest in the UK, meaning more jobs over the last decade. Again, they say they're selling the jobs thing, but there's over 25% unemployment in the country right now, and youth unemployment is approximately double that. So is it working when we're in the EU right now? No. So what difference would it make if we left? In fact, things would probably get better because we'd be able to create more homeland jobs. Being inside the EU, sorry, I read that. Foreign companies have invested £540 billion into the UK, equivalent to £148 million every day. Well, what I would say to that is £140 million of what? Some numbers have transferred from one account to another. It doesn't seem like we've got anything of value, of anything of physical basis and weight. Over 3 million UK jobs are linked to exports to the EU. Right, okay, well, congratulations. Cost of living, here we go. If the UK voted to leave the EU, again, you see what in their wording that they're explaining to you that you do not have a choice. If the UK voted to leave the EU, you have to break this down very simply. The UK, if it voted, now if the UK is a country, it doesn't have hands, it can't learn a language, it can't operate a pen, How can a country leave or join or vote or make a decision about anything? And the answer is that it cannot. But the UK legal corporation, which it is, can, because it has a board, it has members that represent them, it has a boss, it has employees, and we're not them. We are the employees in a way, but it's a very detached way. We just service its profitability. We've got no decision in it, how it's ran. So they're telling you that your decision is not going to be taken into account here. You just have to break down and actually read the words. It's a big problem that we have these days, is that people do not read. They do not understand the very simple English that is put in front of them, because they've been conditioned to read what they think it says rather than what it does say. And they use this to hoodwink the public. The resultant economic shock would put pressure on the value of the pound. Would it? I don't see any evidence here or any data to show that it will. I would love to see where they get this from. Which would risk higher prices of some household goods and damage living standards. Again, would it? I see nothing saying to look on page thing for the source of this. Losing our full access to the EU single market would make exporting to Europe harder and increase costs. Again, would it? I don't see any evidence here to suggest that it would. I see some fear-mongering suggesting that it would happen, which would scare a lot of the people into voting to stay. Millions of UK citizens travel to Europe each year. The EU has made this easier and cheaper. Well, as human beings, we've been travelling the world from day one without restriction, and I would encourage everyone to exercise that right. EU reforms in the 1990s have resulted in a drop in fares of over 40% for low-cost flights. The one thing I would say there is don't support the airline industry. If you're not aware of why, then you need to look into it. From next year, mobile phone roaming charges will be abolished across the EU, saving UK customers calls. Again, they're just scaring you with figures, scaring you where it is going to hurt you, because unfortunately we have the mass population reliant on currency. So anything involving price of something going up is automatically going to put fear into people, because they are enslaved by currency, fiat currency, which has no value. It's the most disgusting thing in the history of humanity. EU membership also gives UK citizens travelling in other European countries the right to access free or cheaper public healthcare. Well, I mean, if the world actually did care about people's health, then all healthcare would be free. To profit from someone's misery is absolutely disgusting. Some argue little would change if we left the EU. I would like to see those who argue, please. But there are no guarantees UK customers would keep these benefits if we left. If the UK voted to leave the EU, the resultant economic shock would risk higher prices of some household goods. Obviously, we have the fear propaganda here, pointing to someone's basket, because obviously under a fiat currency Ponzi scheme system, the price of things can only go up because that's just the way fiat currency works. And the more you print of it, the more you create, the more interest has to get paid back, more interest and taxes has to go into all of our goods. If we abolish the system, and we will, then we will be printing the money, the people, at 0% interest, and that will mean that the price of the money, whatever we decide to call it, backed by silver or gold, will remain very consistent and very reliable. So the crystal ball comes out here. What happens if we leave? Voting to leave the EU would create years of uncertainty and potential economic disruption. This would reduce investment and cost jobs. I would love to see their sources. Again, they will not be able to provide them, because they're simply making this up. The government judges it could result in 10 years or more of uncertainty as the UK unpicks our relationship with the EU. We've been their neighbours for hundreds of years, and you know, there's been times when we haven't gone along with them very well. There's been times when we've been very good friends with them. I don't see why leaving would change anything. If anything, it should bring us closer to them, because we'd be able to negotiate deals which actually help each other. Some argue that we could strike a good deal quickly with the EU. Again, they don't name who's going to be arguing this. But the government's judgment, again, the government does not have a judgment. The government's judgment is the people's judgment. Is that it would be harder than that. Less than 8% of EU exports come to the UK, while 44% of UK exports go to the EU. I would love to see where they get these figures from. It just looks absolute pie in the sky. No other country has, in bold, no other country has managed to secure significant access to the single market without having to follow EU rules over which they have no real say, pay into the EU, except EU citizens living and working in their country. A more limited trade deal with the EU would give the UK less access to the single market than we have now. Again, repeating themselves, they're spreading the fear-mongering. Market than we have now, including the services, which make up almost 80% of the UK economy. For example, Canada's deal with the EU would give limited access for services. Again, with the things that they're going to be rolling out worldwide, like the TPI, the TPP, there's going to be no borders, nobody's going to have a say in anything. It's just going to be rolled into one big, massive contract, basically. A vote to leave could mean a decade or more of uncertainty. I would love to see how they get this. I mean, have they got a time machine, crystal ball? Controlling immigration and securing our borders. Well, we live on an island, and that's all I'm going to say about that. That's absolutely ridiculous. The UK is not part of our European border-free zone. We control our own borders. Well, we're on an island, so I'd expect that we'd be able to control our borders. I mean, it's not exactly difficult. The benefits of EU membership. Well, there is none. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Again, repeating themselves, special status, opportunities for you and your children. They're basically just trying to hit you in a sensitive place, such as your children. Oh, think about the children, you know, it's all in the best interests of the children. Well, it's not, it's in their interests. And by them, I mean the people that run this farce and run this fraud. EU membership brings economic security, peace and stability. No, it doesn't. Well, I mean, look at the instability at the minute that they're causing in Europe. And you're saying that the membership is going to make that better? A once-in-a-generation decision. Well, no, it's not. The referendum on Thursday the 23rd of June, again there isn't one, is your chance to decide if we should remain in the EU or leave the European Union. There are two things here which can indicate that and show you without doubt that you do not have a vote. For one thing, it's asking you to register. Registration ends on the 7th of June. If you register anything, it is not yours. You do not own it. It doesn't matter what it is. If you register anything, absolutely anything, living or dead, physical or non-physical, you do not own it. And all you have to do is look into the word registration and it tells you everything that you need to know. The second thing, which tells you that you do not have a vote, is when you actually go to the voting station. Now, they ask you to register, so that's already fraud, because they can't prove that it's you that's turned up. When you go into the voting booth, it's enclosed. They ask you to mark on a piece of paper with a cross. Now, you look into the history of marking with a cross, and you tell me that that vote is legitimate. That's some homework for you to do. Everybody, even before getting to registering, if you look into the history of marking with a cross, that tells you everything you need to know, that all voting that you've ever done has been for nothing. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Just do your own research. As a prepper, if you're a prepper, even if you're not a prepper, just wake up and see the fraud. The EU referendum is a big decision for you and your family's future. And of course, they try to hit you in the heart here, a little family here with the backs turned. Everything's going to be all nice and cozy. No, it's not. Right, and then we look at the back of the form here. The government believes, again, it's saying the government believes, it's telling you that you have no decision in it whatsoever. If they're saying, or if any government says that they believe, then they don't work for you. And that's it. It's the end of the debate, discussion, speech, whatever. That's it. That's all I'm going to say about it. Again, fear-mongering, saying it's going to protect jobs, a stronger economy, providing security. You might as well just put a bit of cross through them because it's absolutely going to do nothing with that. The EU referendum is a once-in-a-generation decision. The government believes it is in you and your family's best interest that the UK remains in the European Union. Now that is an absolute joke. If the government really cared for our welfare and our health, why do you put poison in our water? Why do you poison the air that we breathe and the food that we eat? Vote on Thursday, 23rd of June 2016. Well, that should put no vote on Thursday, 23rd of June. If you'd like further information, no thanks. I don't want more information, to be honest. Please visit the government's EU referendum website at eureferendum.gov.uk. Well, I can safely say that that's a load of tosh. What I'm going to do now is post this back into the post box and get rid of it. I did not ask for this rubbish to land on the doorstep. I did not ask for it to be printed. I did not ask for their input into this scam. I haven't looked into it very much myself, to be honest. It's just an absolute waste of time. The only final thing to say, guys, is, whether you agree or not with what I've said, the problem that we have is that there are people who control our lives every single day, every minute, every second, every hour, who do not have our best interests at heart. If you take part in this scam, then you give them the energy that they need to continue with it, which means your children, your children's children, and all generations after will be completely subjugated, completely imprisoned, in the prison that you are already in. The good thing about waking up is that you see the bars around you and around everyone else, and it's not pretty, and the road that we're going down is very dark if we do not stop it, and if we don't stop them that are corrupt enough to commit these crimes against us. So whether you agree or disagree with what I've said or not, you don't have to agree, you do not have to disagree. I didn't at first look into the history of things, but it leads you there naturally. And, just look into everything that I've mentioned during this leaflet. Do your research and make up your own mind. Make it, evaluate the information that you're looking at. Look at multiple points of sources of information. Make your own critical, independent decision about things. And then you decide for yourself what you're going to do regards this and regards all aspects that affect your life. And, I wish you luck. If you are a prepper, then, keep prepping, guys. It's very important. And if you haven't looked into some of the things that I've mentioned here as a prepper, then please look into it, because when stuff goes wrong, we as preppers need to be the strength, and we need to be the pillar that holds up the fabric of a society that's going to replace this absolute fraud and these criminal actions that are visited upon us without our consent. So that's it, guys. I'm sorry if the video's been longer than what it needed to be. The only thing and the last thing to say is to be safe and be prepared. And I'll catch you next time.